8% of the population account for 24% of the prison inmates in France. 77% of rapes, solved rapes in Paris, are committed by foreigners.
Yep.
And in 54% of street crimes in Nice are carried out by foreigners. I mean, those are, for an 8% population, those are massive disparities.
Yep.
Aren't they?
And we know what all to be true because we see it with our own eyes.
Yeah.
We hear people talking. We see the pictures of criminals in Manchester News. We see the pictures of the grooming gang rapists. We know these things to be true because we see it around us.
Yeah.
And over time, it becomes knowledge.
Yeah.
And then we have these stats, and that just confirms what we already know. Sometimes we can be wrong.
Yes.
In our perceptions, but not always. And in this, when we're not wrong, we know.
So can I give you a hypothetical case now, and I'd like you to answer it in two ways. Firstly, as your perception of a man on the street, a man on the Clapham omnibus, and the second answer is as Nick Buckley. So let's assume we're 100 years in the future, 50 years in the future, and anyway, we've made contact with Mars, and there are Martian people, and there's interrelationships have happened between the Martians or whatever, and then as a result of the conversations, we've then said to the Martians, you can come and live in England, basically. The Martians, you can come and live in England. We're happy to. Everything's gone really well. We love you. We love the green skin, compared to, sort of thing. It's different to our white skin. Come. So the Martians come to live in England.
And do you know why they would go to England to live? Because on Mars there's no atmosphere.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so yeah, we like it here for that reason. Anyway, 2 years in, the Martians have moved in. They're in various areas or whatever, and then the crime stats come out. And by the way, some of these Martians have had kids. They've landed. They've had kids. Some of them married English people. The kids are sort of light green, not fully dark green, but that's fine. And so we're maybe one generation into the Martians, but the crime stats come out, and they're now 8% of the population in England, the Martians, and then we find out that they're accounting for 24% of the prison inmates now because they're, for whatever reason, culturally they're quite violent. They're raping. 77% of rapes are now carried out by the Martians as well. And 54% of street crimes are carried out by the Martians as well. So once those stats come out, the Prime Minister gets on the stage and he said, we've decided we're going to revoke privileges for the Martians, and we're going to send all of the Martians back. We welcome them.
We're going to deport them.
We're going to send them back to Mars. As a man on the street, would you think that was a reasonable thing to do?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Right. Now, if I then said these are Moroccans, would you think that was as a man on the street, would you think that was a reasonable thing to do?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
I think I said to you last time, foreigners in this country are no more than guests.
Yes.
And as the host nation, we have the right at any time to tell you, go home.
Yeah.
Because you're just a guest here.
But when we say this to the progressives around us, when we talk or whatever, and we suggest... So when Kurt Van... What's he called? The guy in Holland?
Stephen Van... Oh, no.
Kurt Van... Whatever he's called. When he says in Holland, I want to send Moroccans back to Morocco, the stats in Holland are very similar to this. But there's an outcry.
Yep.
But would there be an outcry for the Martians?
Yes.
Oh, you think there would?
Oh, I think there would, because the left, again, it's all based on emotion. That's why you can't beat them with facts and stats. It's emotion. So that emotion will be, you can't blame them all for the sins of 10%, 20% of them. Not all of them are criminals. I've met one once, very nice. I know one in Tesco's, and they always pack my bags for me. They're lovely. So there'll be those emotional...
It's those eight green fingers.
Pack them really quickly. So there'll be that emotion.
It's the suckers on the end of the fingers that speed up the process.
Yeah. And these feelings are very feminine. I'm not saying female. I'm saying
that's interesting.
Feminine.
Yeah.
About why can't we all just get along? Because the feminine roles in society were all about keeping a tribe together, cooking together, communal chores when we lived in tribes. We couldn't have certain members of the tribes falling out, so it was the female trait women there trying to bring people together. They were the ones who would share out food, so everyone got an equal share. Compare that to men in tribes. Men in tribes, there would be leaders, there would be sub-leaders. You would do as you're told because you've not raised up the pecking order yet. Men automatically put men in positions of power or positions, lower positions based on what we know about you. You can change your position, but it takes hard work. And by hard work, what I mean is you've got to show the other men around you that you've got more worth, and they will raise you above. When we have to hunt, most tribes, it's traditional for the leader of the tribe, for the person who brings down the buffalo to take the prime cut of meat, because that's your reward. Women don't do those things because we're different creatures. We're the same species but different creatures. So this way of looking at immigrants and Martians is all, why can't we all just get along? Do you know what? If we treated them better, they'd stop raping us. It's because the way we treat them. It's the white privilege. It's the white supremacy. We look at them with evil in our eyes, and that makes them rape. So really, whose fault is it that we're making them rape us?
But I thought if it was Martians who were a completely different world and species, people might have a different view. But you think even in that situation that people would say, oh, Martians, because
it would be less people because they are different.
They are very different.
But there'd still be people using the same arguments.
Because people use the argument about immigration, about sending people back. They say it's because of skin colour, and I always say, well, what about Romanians and Bulgarians?
Yeah. who commit crime just as much as the Africans?
Yes.
Send them all back. Send the French back. I'm glad we deported the Dutch guy.
Yes.
This has got nothing to do with colour and religion.
Yeah.
It's to do with we don't want you in our country anymore.
Yeah. Well, we don't want you in our country anymore because you're destroying things, aren't you, basically? Yeah. You're committing more crime. I mean, the stats you told me about Pakistani Muslim babies last week were quite staggering to me. I meant to do some more research on that and maybe present that as a... But if the Martians arrived here and all their kids were taking up 50% of the resources of the National Health Service, again, would the man in the street say, yes, we should deport the...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is the core of racism.
Yeah.
Racism isn't necessarily a bad thing. Racism is about putting people who look like you ahead in the line.
Yeah.
That's what nation states do.
Yeah.
Have you heard the story about the frog and the scorpion?
Yes.
So for our listeners who don't know...
Yeah. It's a good story. I'll probably tell it better, but you tell it.
Yeah, I want to tell it really quickly.
Yeah, okay.
Because it can go on. Yeah. It can go on. Frog and a scorpion on an island, and the river starts flooding, and the island's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. In the end, the frog says, oh, I'm swimming to the other bank. And the scorpion says, I can't swim. Can I climb on your back? Can you swim me over? And the frog says, no, because you'll sting me and kill me. And the scorpion says, no, I won't. Because if I sting you, and kill you, I'll drown.
We'll both drown,
I won't do it. So the frog goes, okay, got my back. Swims halfway across the river, and the scorpion stabs him in the back. And the frog screams and goes, why? We're both going to die now. And the scorpion goes, I'm sorry. I'm a scorpion. That's what I do.
Yeah. It's in my nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence, when we look at people from Morocco or other parts of Eastern Europe or Africa or Asia, we're not blaming them for being criminals. We're not blaming them for not being as civilised as we would wish them to be to fit into our country. It's not their fault. but it's not our problem. So deport them.
So where would the only whilst I agree with Kurt Van Gelders or Van Gelders or whatever, and to me again these stats in Paris. And by the way, did I tell you last week a friend of mine had just come back from Paris? Did I tell you that story? No. So he said to me, when was the last time you were in Paris? And I said, about 10 years ago. It's actually probably nearly 20 or 30 years ago. He said, it's dreadful.
I've seen pictures.
I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it's just horrific. He said, we went to a restaurant. I mean, he was meeting nice people, going to nice restaurants. It was business, I think. He said, we went to this typical French restaurant. He said, we got to the door. We had to knock on the door. I said, knock on the door. He said, knock on the door. They opened the door with a chain. Oh, who is it? It's I won't tell you his name. They let him in, came in, locked the door. Restaurant was full of people, but they have to.
Wow, I didn't. I've not heard of this.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, well, why is that? He said, it's immigrants. He said, it's just chaos on the streets of Paris now. Crime everywhere, graffiti everywhere. He said, the infrastructure's still there, the buildings are still there.
Yeah.
But it's just like a no-go zone basically. Yeah. He said, don't go back to Paris now. He said, you don't want to go back there. He said, it's horrific. And I was quite shocked. Especially the door about the door, the restaurant, just a normal restaurant. They lock the doors to stop immigrants busting in, causing trouble, trying to steal. So whatever is going on, I don't know where these immigrants are, what area they're from.
They're doing it for a reason, because they wouldn't want to do that. Because that's just a bad advertisement for their restaurant. Yeah. So there has to be a really genuine reason for them to be doing that. Yeah. What
restaurant do we know in the UK where you can't, where they lock the door to go in? So it is. I understand it's pretty bad in Paris. I understand it's pretty.
I know crime's bad, and I've seen the tent cities, and just videos online of people videoing walking down the street, and it looks like an African shanty town. It's Paris.
Really?
And it's horrendous. Did you like that video? I think you did. Hit the bell, give it a big thumbs up, comment, and don't forget I'm standing for election in Oldham East and Saddleworth. So please share this video, speak to your family and friends if you live in Greater Manchester, and if you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, make sure you vote for me. Catch you soon.